Greetings, Earthlings, and welcome again back to the Earth, our Mudfossil Gaia. Before I continue, I feel it's important to clarify a few things regarding the reality and the nature of these beings that I'm presenting to you. I just did a little more research into this topic, and my suspicions were right. Not only are the Hindu deities Jinn, but when I looked into the etymology of the name Salmon is another name for Solomon. So these rebel angels that Salman turned into earth in this scripture I read you, they actually are Jinn. So here is where it gets touchy. And I need to express that I'm not trying to point fingers at anyone's gods and claiming any kind of judgment terms like demon, okay? And I am not trying to tell anyone what they should or shouldn't believe, nor do I support or encourage worship of anything on my channel. And I'm not even saying whether it's a good or a bad thing to do so. I'm simply presenting you with the information, and you can use your own discernment from there. There is nothing here that I have created or distorted to sway the facts one way or another. The facts are simply the facts. And I'm only the messenger. So, in the technical definition for the Jinn, it explains that they are not created to be either good or evil. And that they, like us, have the ability to choose, and most of them have an equal balance of good and evil aspects within them. There are many stories of particular genies converting to Islam and worshiping Allah, like this guy from Morocco who looks suspiciously like Shiva. Now, there is a lot of controversy when it comes to what the oldest religion is, and some have speculated that Hinduism is a corrupted version of Christianity, so I looked into that. And when you look at the simple timeline, it only makes sense that Christianity would have started with or around the character Christ. Well, Hinduism way predates that time period of Christ and humanity itself, for that matter. And in Islamic texts, the Jinn were created 1,000 years before humans were created. So I think it's more likely the other way around. I recently noticed through my research also that in place of many of these Hindu temples that were destroyed are now standing mosques. And I think the builders of these holy places were well aware of what and probably directly who they were building on. So I will elaborate more on that in its own video, Transcendence Through the Eyes of Angels. I have made so many connections to the true nature of these legend people lately that I am so excited to share with you all. There is just so much information to go along with it that it takes a minute to get it all put together, and I really feel that it's important to show you my work. So, I can give you guys links to where I'm finding this information, and you guys can also discern from that information for yourselves. And, that's all it is, really. I am not making these things up or doing a lot of guesswork. I love the saying, you can't make this shit up, because you really can't. This is so far out there and proves so many ancient stories and myths to be reality that it really is hard to believe. I know, I get it. But when I started finding these stories to go along with the creatures that Roger was talking about, it's just something I find so fascinating that I had to share it, because I know I'm not the only one. So, without further ado, now allow me to introduce you to Goddess Ganga and her Makara. In Hinduism, the river Ganga is considered sacred and is personified as the goddess Ganga. She is worshipped by Hindus and Buddhists who believe that bathing in the river causes the remission of sins and facilitates moksha, liberation from the cycle of life and death, and that the water of the Ganges is considered very pure. Pilgrims immerse the ashes of their kin in the river Ganga, which is considered by them to bring the spirits closer to moksha. She is known by many other names that I will list, and I'm not going to try to pronounce. Now, the descent of Ganga to earth has many different variations. I'm going to share with you here a few that you can find on Wikipedia. The Mahabharata narrates that there was war between the Devas and Asuras, which are basically, I told you, they're the Jinn, okay? So the Devas are basically the good Jinn, the Asuras are the bad Jinn, but they're all Jinn. So, the Devas were becoming victorious. The Asuras hid in the sea, and the gods were unable to find them. They requested sage Agastya to help, and the sage, using his divine powers, drank up the ocean. The Devas defeated the remaining demons and asked Agastya to restore the water. The sage replied that he has digested the water and can't restore it. The world was worried, but Lord Vishnu assured them that the ocean would soon be filled. Several years later, a king named Sagara magically acquired 60,000 sons. One day, King Sagara performed a ritual of worship for the good of the kingdom. One of the integral parts of the ritual was a horse, which was stolen by the jealous Indra. Sagara sent all his sons all over the earth to search for the horse. They found it in the netherworld, or the underworld, next to a meditating sage, Kapil, tied by Lord Indra, the king of Swarg. So, believing that the sage had stolen the horse, they hurled insults at him and caused his penance to be disturbed. The sage opened his eyes for the first time in several years and looked at the sons of Sagara. With his glance, all 60,000 were burnt to death. The souls of the sons of Sagara wandered as ghosts since their final rites had not been performed. For the moksha of all the sons of Sagar, Anshuman, nephew of those 60,000 sons, started to pray to Brahma to bring Ganga to the earth till the end of his life, but was not successful. Then his son Dilip did the same, but did not succeed. When Bhagirath, which means one who does great hard work, he got his name from his great hard work for bringing Ganga to earth. One of the descendants of Sagara, son of Dilip, learnt of this fate. He vowed to bring Ganga down to earth. so that her waters could cleanse their souls and release them to heaven. Bhagirath prayed to Brahma that Ganga comes down to earth. Brahma agreed, and he ordered Ganga to go down to the earth and then on to the nether regions, so that the souls of Bhagiratha's ancestors would be able to go to heaven. Ganga felt that this was insulting and decided to sweep the whole earth away as she fell from the heavens. Alarmed, Bhagiratha prayed to Shiva that he break up Ganga's descent. Ganga arrogantly fell on Shiva's head, but Shiva calmly trapped her in his hair and let her out in small streams. The touch of Shiva further sanctified Ganga. As Ganga traveled to the netherworlds, she created a different stream to remain on earth to help purify unfortunate souls there. She is the only river to flow from all three worlds. Another name that Ganga is known by is Jhanavi. Story has it that once Ganga came down to earth on her way to Bhagiratha, her rushing waters created turbulence and destroyed the fields and the sadhana of sage Jhanu. He was angered by this, and he drank up all of Ganga's waters. Upon this, the gods prayed to Jhanu to release Ganga so that she could proceed with her mission. Pleased with their prayers, Jhanu released Ganga, her water, from his ears. Hence the name Jhanavi, daughter of Jhanu, for Ganga. It is sometimes believed that the river will finally dry up at the end of Kali Yuga, the last of the 4 stages the world goes through as part of the cycle of yugas. The era of darkness is the current era. Just as with the Saraswati River, and this era will end. So next in cyclic order will be the Satya Yuga, or the era of truth. So I found this really great channel that I know you guys are going to love. Smoking in G Sharp. She is hilarious. You guys will love her. So these screenshots are from one of the videos that she did. She's got some really great stuff on her channel about melted buildings and giants, and she is really funny to listen to. So anyway, I just wanted to point out how interesting it is that these yugas actually line up with the Mayan calendar as well. Very interesting. She has a video here on it that I'll leave a link for you guys. So I believe what we have here, this sea dragon that I've been looking at, that I thought was like some sort of hippocampus, maybe like a seahorse. He has quite a long snout, and I think it's not actually a hippocampus, but more like one of these Makara creatures. And what's really cool, there is a Hindu god or king of the Himalayas who is the personification of the Himalayan mountains, who just happens to be the father of the goddess Ganga, who rides a Makara. So it kind of would make sense that her father, back in the time of the legend people when they were all turned to stone, he was one of these Makara creatures, I think. Himavat. So I have been digging and digging, trying to find an actual picture of this Himalayan mountain god, and I finally stumbled across a story where Hanuman, the monkey god, on one of his quests, a drop of sweat fell to the ocean and was swallowed by a Makara. From that, a mighty Makara was born. And this mighty Makara is who became the Himalayan mountain range and is also the father of Ganga. Not only that, as I was following the Ganges River down and it travels over into Bangladesh, it becomes Padman, who would be Kuan Yin. She's also a dragon rider. You'll see her riding a sea dragon through the water. It's the same person. Pretty cool stuff, right? If you wonder why I jump back and forth so much between different religions and ancient gods and goddesses, I follow Syncretism by Santos Bonocci, Mr. Astrotheology himself, and you will learn that these are all the same stories, just retold over and over again. It's really fascinating stuff. I love making these connections. How do you say it, Gaurikund? This is where they say the Ganga fell upon Shiva's head. So I've been looking at this, wondering, is there a giant head of Shiva here, maybe, somewhere? I mean, under all this landmass, I guess there could be. But this is where she fell, and where she fell, she destroyed the village of this sage who drank up the Ganges, and then he let her out of her, in the story, he let her out of his ear. Well, apparently this sage is supposed to be also the father of Ganga. So that is the story that connects them there. This giant Makara that is the Himalayan mountains, that is Himavat, or is it Jhanu? And then Ganga is also called daughter of Jhanu. So this is the son of the monkey god that turned into that giant Makara. And it's really weird. It does look like there's something like coming out of its ear here, So I wonder, if this whole area kind of got flooded when he let her go. And then the Ganges River kind of flows down across from here over to here, where we find this little Makara, who I identified in another video as a sea dragon with a rider on it. I believe this is our goddess Ganga on her Mount Makara, right here.